Hey, what's going on, everybody? Today, I wanted to talk about the do's and don'ts of reefing when setting up your first saltwater aquarium. If you're brand new to my channel and we haven't met yet, my channel's main focus is to help new reefers and share what I've learned since I've started reefing back in 2016. The hobby is constantly evolving, and there's always something new to learn. Whether you're a veteran or new to the hobby, I hope I can help you avoid some of the mistakes I've made so far. And if you enjoy videos and podcasts like this one, can you go ahead and smash that like button for me? Because I try to put in as much value as I can into these videos I make to help you out. And a small little tap or click really helps the YouTube algorithm recommend my videos to others in need. Well, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. So these are the things you do want to do when setting up a brand new reef tank. First off, drill your tank. Now, I know that may seem scary to some people, but it's a pretty simple process. All you need to do is buy some diamond coated bits off of Amazon, have you a decent drill, even a battery powered drill will work. But if you're scared to do it yourself, just post on Facebook or a forum or maybe even your local fish club and see if someone may drill the tank for you for a small little fee. They may even do it for free. The main benefit of drilling your tank is you can add a sump with all the gear instead of having all that stuff hanging out in your display tank looking like shit. You know, all full of heaters and cords, probes, dosing lines, external little refugium boxes with a little light on top of them, and, you know, God forbid, a hang on the back filter or a skimmer. And yeah, I've done all of those on my very first tank. I've had all that on there along with a metal halide light and two AI Prime LED little pucks on the side. And all that was in a 29-gallon tank. It was a freaking mess in that little tank. The next thing you want to make sure you always do is quarantine your fish, and if you have the room, quarantine your corals. You want to quarantine your fish because you don't know what kind of disease or what kind of health issues they have that may spread to your other fish. And the corals, you want to make sure you QT those because you don't know what kind of pests they could have on there. They could have flatworm, they could have bryopsis, bubble algae, hair algae, aptasia, acro-eating flatworms. You just don't really know what kind of pest you're really going to get when you're buying corals. So you want to make sure you QT those and watch them very closely before you put them in your main tank. Another mistake new reefers make is buying the cheapest equipment you can get out there, buying Jabo. Well, I mean, there's nothing wrong with Jabo, but buying Jabo everything and expecting it to just last for 20 years. Now, this is just not going to happen. If you buy shitty equipment and it breaks down within a year, I mean, it's just your own fault. This hobby can be cheap if you wanted to, but overall, it's pretty expensive. I mean, the better gear you buy, the longer it's going to last. You want to buy your higher quality name products, even though they're going to be more expensive, but in the long run, they're not going to break down as fast. Avoid those cheaper products unless you just really feel like paying more for it in the long run versus buying the more expensive products once up front. Now, we've already pretty much talked about this in the don'ts, but you do want to buy an RODI filter. There's just more benefits from it versus not buying RODI filter. Again, you're going to have to travel to your LFS, tote your buckets, bring them to your house, all that crap. It just sucks. I did that for about 6 months and I said, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to buy an RODI filter. And then not too long after that, I went ahead and bought the RODI Flood Guardian because I kept leaving my RODI filter on in my bucket and that thing kept overflowing because I forgot about it. There was even one time where I was filling up a 40-gallon aquarium. I went to bed. I completely forgot about it. Then I woke up and the floor, the little stand I made for it, everything was just flooded. And, you know, it was just a mess. So right after that, I said, you know what? Screw that. I'm buying this little Flood Guardian thing. All it is just a solenoid and an optical sensor. You put your RODI output water into the solenoid, and then you put your sensor in your bucket or whatever container where you want to catch the water. And once the water raises up to that sensor, it's going to shut off the valve. And then right after that, your RODI unit's going to shut off. So it's not going to make any more water. And trust me, it's worth the investment. If you want to check it out, it's on Bork Reef Supply. And I think it's also on Amazon. It's the RODI Flood Guardian by XP Aqua. The next do on the list is you want to make sure you're at least testing your tank weekly. And I'm talking about temperature, your salinity, pH, alkalinity, calcium, magnesium, your phosphate, and nitrates at the bare minimum. If you want to test anything else, hey, go for it. But just make sure you don't burn yourself out because you're not going to feel like doing that every week. I used to not test every week. I would test kind of just once in a while, maybe once a month, once every 2 months or so. And, you know, my corals, they didn't really thrive like they are now because now I test every week and I'm in tune with my tank. Now, something else you want to use as a beginner, you do want to make sure that you use Kalkwasser. If you start to notice that your alkalinity and calcium drop more and more each week as you test, you may want to look into using Kalkwasser instead of maybe a 2-part. Kalkwasser is definitely easier than using 2-part. I mean, you don't have to dose alkalinity, test, wait, dose again just to get it dialed in. Same thing with calcium. If you use Kalkwasser, you're going to be dosing alkalinity and calcium at the same time. You just dose Kalkwasser for a certain amount of time until you reach your target levels of what you want to be at. When you're first starting out in the hobby, you want to make sure that you buy used gear, including the tank. Unless you're going to get a 40-gallon breeder or 20-gallon tank from Petco, go with a used tank. Go with some good used equipment because you don't really know if this hobby may be for you or not. Now, if you know for sure this is going to be a hobby for you, you know, I still recommend starting off with used equipment. That way you can kind of learn from your mistakes. And if you make some bad mistake, like you use a razor the wrong way and you scratch the glass on your tank, you're not going to be as pissed off at yourself if you just bought a brand new tank and use that same razor and scratch the tank. And you're stuck with that big scratch, you know, for the life of that tank. And also, if you buy used equipment, you can get a higher quality equipment for a little bit cheaper than what you would pay brand new. And as long as it's good, decent name brand equipment, you're not going to have to worry about that equipment failing on you for quite a while. So this next one, I struggled with this myself at first because, you know, it was a brand new hobby to me and I just wanted to be involved. And this is, do keep your hands out of your tank. You don't have to put your hand in your tank and reorganize corals or, you know, reorganize rocks, clean the sand. You know, you don't have to do that every day. You really don't need to stick your hand in your tank for any reason unless it's maybe to grab a power head or something, or say a coral fell off of a rock, you need to mount it back on there. There's really no reason to stick your hand in your tank. The more you keep your hands out of your tank, I promise you, the better off your coral's going to grow, the better off everything's going to be in your tank overall. And the reason for this is, say if you wash your hands, you have just soap suds left on there that you can't see, that's going to go in the tank. You know, say you're a mechanic, you work with grease, you work with all kind of oils and chemicals, that's going to be in your tank. So you want to make sure that you keep your hands out of your tank. This is going to be a little bit advanced, but eventually you'll start hearing about copepods and phytoplankton, and there's only benefits that will come from adding phytoplankton or adding copepods to your tank. You know, they are at the very bottom of your food chain in your tank. The phytoplankton is the very bottom. The copepods are going to eat the phytoplankton. Your fish, your coral, they're going to eat your copepods. And then everything's going to be healthier overall because it's just a natural diet in your tank versus feeding flakes, pellets, or even frozen food. And if you really want to geek out on this stuff, instead of buying your phytoplankton or copepods, you can culture your own phytoplankton and you can grow your own copepods. I've got a video on how to do both, and if you're interested, just search my channel. All right, so we've almost come to the end here. The first bonus I want you to do is take pictures of your tank and post them to social media, you know, specifically maybe Instagram or Facebook, and just post one photo monthly and put, hey, February full tank shot, and then March, April, May, you know, just post one photo a month. I mean, you can also post more photos later on of specific whatever you want to do, but just specifically post one photo each month of your tank. That way, when your memories come back around, you can see those photos and you'll be like, wow, I remember when that coral was just a little tiny frag and now it's like a little mini colony, or it's a huge colony now, you know, just depending on what you got. This way you won't really be frustrated with like looking at your tank every day, multiple times a day, and be like, man, this coral is growing slow as hell. Like, why won't you grow? You don't necessarily notice that it's growing every day, but it is growing. The last bonus tip I have for you here is to buy a battery backup, or if you have enough money, buy a generator. You just don't really know where you're going to have a power outage, or maybe some natural disaster is going to come and wipe out your power. And if you have a battery backup or generator, you're just going to be that much more prepared to save your reef in one of these instances. I know it's expensive, but trust me, add up all your power heads, add up your lights, add up your tank, your time, your fish, your coral. I guarantee you a generator is well worth the money versus losing all that stuff. All right, guys, so that about wraps it up for now. If you have any questions or something you would like to add, go ahead and drop a comment below and I'll get back to you. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen to what I have to say. If you like this podcast or found it informative, hey, go ahead and smash that like button for me. And if you want to get notified when I upload more videos or podcasts like this one, tap that subscribe button and that little bell icon next to it and press all in the little drop down menu. That way you won't miss anything. Again, I appreciate you listening and I'll see you on the next one.